Chuck brothers are on the ice, flanking Jack Eichel. Got Cooper, look out! They're going to drop the gloves right away.
Ding.
Sam Bennett, Brady Tkachuk. I don't think we're done. No, I don't think so either.
I know what I must do.
Got a little room. Great pass. McDavid is in. McDavid scores! Colt into the zone, flipping it through. Scores! Game tied. Team Jarvis takes the pass. Crosby had that broken up. And away goes Larkin. It's a 2-on-1. Larkin scored! And Team USA has the lead. A hard-fought Team USA victory, and it finishes 3-1.
Where did that bring you? Back to me. I am inevitable.
Mama, don't you cry!
USA Hockey is do or die!
USA Hockey is do or die!
Anthony, we could only hope that Thursday night is as epic as that, or even the 2010 Olympics, which was absolutely incredible. I can never, ever, ever say enough about that. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Big Apple Hockey. We're going to have one more guy coming right in a second, but let's start filtering in all of the introductions. I, of course, am your exuberant host, Mark Williams, who is pumped to see USA Canada tomorrow night. It was already great on Saturday, and I'm joined by the man from the Hockey News, Mr. Anthony LaRocco.
Yeah, I'm really excited for tomorrow's game. It's going to be intense, even crazier, I think, than the first matchup. A lot of eyes are going to be on this game, just even casual fans. So I'm super excited about it, and it's going to be must-see TV tomorrow night.
Yeah, and we're going to be joined by our host of the Final Buzzer, Mr. John Falkowski, any moment, and we'll get him introduced. But Anthony, this is an incredible event that has just got a lot of buzz with it because it's everywhere right now. Everybody is talking about it, and that is where the A block is going to go. We are going to go to USA Canada tomorrow night in Boston. Once again, the A block is brought to you by SeatGeek. Use the promo code Big Apple Hockey, $20 off your first order. Big Apple Hockey trucker hats and shirts are available. Use the link down below. And so Anthony, tomorrow night, USA Canada Four Nations Face-Off Final. It's going to be in Boston. And well, first, congratulations to either Auston Matthews or Mitch Marner. A Toronto Maple Leaf is going to win a game at Boston. And USA won Saturday night in Montreal. There were 3 fights in the first 9 seconds and a power play. It was incredible. Connor McDavid with the goal. Jake Gensel had 2 goals, one of them an empty netter. Dylan Larkin on the 2-on-1 rush, as you saw before. Here's the numbers for the goaltenders. Anthony, first things first, which team is under the most pressure?
At first glance, I want to say Canada, because just because they've been the powerhouse, they've won all the big moments in a lot of the last major international competitions. But I'm gonna actually go ahead and say USA, because I think just like in 2010, they beat them in the round robin round when it didn't really matter as much, and then in the gold medal game they lost. So I think for them, tomorrow night is an opportunity to show that they are right up there with Canada as the superior powerhouse in international hockey. And I think they want to beat Canada in a game that's for all the marbles. They haven't done it in quite some time. What was it, 96 the last time they beat Canada in the winner-take-all game?
In a winner-take-all game, it was 96.
So, yeah, I think that the pressure is actually on USA here to win and to kind of, flip the script and change the narrative. So that's not to say that Canada is not under any pressure, because, of course, they're under pressure too. They view it as their game, and they're the favorites. They're the perennial powerhouse. Every year there's international competition. But in this case, I think I think it's Team USA. I like the fact that they're going to be on home ice. They're going to have the crowd behind them. then again, that could fire up Canada too, playing spoiler. But I just think that USA needs this win. I think they need to get the best of Canada in a winner-take-all game. They haven't done it in quite some time. I think it falls on their shoulders, and I think Mike Sullivan's going to have them ready to play. And listen, this is what all the players have wanted: best on bests. A lot of the players that said that this is the biggest game of their lives. Even like guys like Jack Eichel and stuff who've played some pretty big games at the NHL level. Matt Tkachuk, they're saying that this game is one of the biggest games of their lives they're going to be playing in. So that just shows you how much this really matters to the players. I'm super pumped about it, and hopefully USA can come out on top. But I think the pressure is more on USA, believe it or not.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting seeing how the pressure is going to be. Bilk, welcome onto the show. Our host, John Falkowski of the Final Buzzer. Bilk, which team is under the most pressure?
Canada. And I'm going to completely disagree with Anthony because they're the ones that are the favorites here. They're the ones that, even though they've won the last few, they do have the pressure here. Don't get it twisted in any such sort of way. The U.S. is regarded as the number 2 team in the world. They're the number 2 hockey developmental nation in the world. It's all on Canada. It is not on the U.S. I mean, have they not won since the 96 World Cup of Hockey? Sure. But make no mistake, they were not regarded as the favorites to win this tournament. Canada was regarded as the favorites to win this tournament, even with their issues in net. And there might have been some pundits at TSN who thought that the U.S. could win this due to Canada's lack of goaltending depth. It's Canada by all means, because if they mess this up and they lose, then it's a bad look on some of their big guns like McDavid and McKinnon, especially because this is their first opportunity for a real true best on best. When they played in the 2016 World Cup of Hockey, they were all young. And that wasn't really it wasn't a real team, that North American team. It was just a thrown together team, and they weren't really representing their country. Now they're representing their country. So if they lose, it's more of a stain on them, and there's going to be a ton of backfire in the Canadian media if they lose. And that's the biggest thing. And I don't think any of these players, that front office, or that coaching staff wants to deal with that backfire.
Yeah, I'm kind of I gotta agree. It's gonna be Canada. Canada needs to get their revenge, and they've won every single best on best tournament, excluding 96, which was the World Cup of Hockey, and they lost to the US. They didn't win in 98 when they got upset by the Czechs, and they lost in 2006 when Sweden and Henrik Lundqvist were able to claim the gold medal. But yeah, I gotta agree, guys. I want to try to say the US. I keep wanting to try to say it's the US, because for the US, it's time for them to step up and say, we are a hockey powerhouse. And it just seems like when push comes to shove, Big Brother Canada just goes up, throws the US into the dirt, and then that's it. Sure, the US has beaten them plenty of times since 1996, but look at 2010 when they went up to Vancouver and won the round robin game, and then tied the game late, and it looked like they might be able to pull it out in overtime. Ryan Miller was an absolute wall. Sidney Crosby sneaks one through, and then that's it. This has been an incredible matchup. I can't say it enough, but it's also it's the time for those great players. Phil kind of brought this up too. The last time they were in a World Cup or a best on best situation like this, McDavid and McKinnon, they were teammates with Eichel and Matthews and JT Miller. I mean, now it's your country. So now they have to go out and go prove it. And we're going to go through some of the other factors that's going to be in there right now. I can't help but just wonder, can it finally be US's victory or the coronation or Canada's revenge in this matter? Four Nations face-off has been a great success. We're going to get into every single aspect of it in a little bit. But we'll go right back to you, Phil. Who's somebody you're looking at and saying they need to step up?
It's actually a good question. I'm gonna say there's a few guys on the U.S. that really need to start pulling their own weight. I'm looking at Jack Hughes. I'm looking at Kyle Connor. I'm looking at Auston Matthews. Even though I like his play, the numbers just aren't there to support what he's doing. You remember how like everyone would blame Rick Nash for the Rangers not winning in 2014? And they would look at his numbers and say, oh, well, he didn't score enough goals. He's paid $7.8 million to score goals. Well, Auston Matthews is one of the highest paid players in the league and is one of the best goal scorers in the league. And he hasn't really done anything in this tournament offensively. But his 200-foot game has been very good. And if you've been watching, you would notice that. So Jack Hughes, Kyle Connor, Auston Matthews for me. If I'm looking at Canada, I definitely want more from Brad Marchand, who looks like kind of a shell of himself. He's had a couple of decent shifts. Brandon Hagel needs to prove why he was put on this roster, because for me, I look at him kind of in the same vein that I look at Brock Nelson. Like, they're not hurting their teams, but they're not exactly helping either. Like, they haven't really been all that good. Like, not bad, but not good or great either. It's kind of just there. I would like to see more from Sam Reinhart too. For a guy that scored 57 goals last year, I thought that he would have been more of a goal scorer here. So I just don't see it with him. So I would say him, and for Canada, that would be the one guy that I could think of like right off the top of my head, and Hagel obviously as well.
Anthony, who do you got? You're going to call out, say they need to step up.
Well, I mean, for the USA players, Phil said the same three I was going to say: Matthews, Hughes, Connor. They're both offensive players. They can score a lot of goals, and they're just not doing it. While I think Hughes and Matthews have been pretty good defensively, honestly, but they've bought in that just the offense isn't there. And same thing with Connor. Connor's provided nothing, so not going to really add too much there. On the Canadian side, yeah, I would agree Sam Reinhart too. He mentioned Hagel and Marchand, which is true, but they're playing in a lesser role this tournament. Sam Reinhart is an offensive player. He's playing in a top six role. He's a guy that scored 50 goals last year. He's going to score 50 goals again. He hasn't done nearly enough for Canada. Other than that, I mean, I don't know. Maybe a guy like Brayden Point, because Brayden Point's another one. He's a very gifted offensive player. I think he could contribute a little bit more to the score sheet. He hasn't been terrible, but he hasn't produced like we all know Brayden Point can. So those are the two from Canada that I would go with.
You guys have kind of said everybody that I was thinking of, so I'm going to have to go to the obvious guy that needs to step up, and that's Jordan Binnington. Jordan Binnington can't let in a soft goal. If you got Connor McDavid streaking down, roofs a backhander through like the size of a credit card to get in the net past Connor Hellebuck, giving them the lead, giving them the boost, you can't let a softie in like that. And the thing about Jordan Binnington is he has done a great job keeping the games close. And I'm not saying that in the most satisfying way, because after all, Canada had that game covered in spades the other day versus Finland, and they only won 5-3 when they were winning 4-0 with 6 minutes remaining. So and everybody kind of all sat back and went, uh-oh. So he's going to have to step up. And if he ends up winning this tournament, that's probably going to be the weakest goalie that the United States has lost to in this string of games against Canada. At least Roberto Luongo was in net in 2010 and Martin Brodeur in 2002. But it's got to be Jordan Binnington, because if everybody on TNT had to bring up over and over and over again, this was the building where he won a game 7. Yeah, that was 2019. He hasn't been that goaltender for a while. And if you look at these numbers, guys, geez, they want to bring up his high danger save percentage. Good for you. How about his .892 save percentage? That's not good. So he's letting, if you want to say he's saving the high danger stuff, he's letting in everything else. So, I'm gonna go with Jordan Binnington on that one because he's the obvious one. And I guess for Team USA, I think you're gonna have to get more out of Kyle Connor, especially. Look, everybody else is playing great defensively, but Kyle Connor, come on. At one point, the first month of the season, he was like the best player in the league. They need more out of him. Anthony, let's go right back to an under the radar player for you. Who are you looking at?
It's tough. That's because I think there's really a lot of choices that you can come up with for under the radar player. For USA, I'm gonna go with a guy like Matthew Boldy because he's a guy at the NHL level that can score 30 plus goals. Obviously, in this tournament, he's playing on a third line role. Canada's going to focus much of their attention defensively, on the USA's top guns, Auston Matthews, Jack Hughes, the Kachuk brothers, Eichel. So Boldy and his line, including JT Miller, Larkin, they may get some minutes against not as quality defenders. So I think a guy like Boldy needs to take advantage of that, and if he could score a goal or two, I think they'll go a long way with helping Team USA. For Canada, I'm actually going to go back to a player that Phil said for Canada needs to be better, and Brandon Hagel. And I think in this role, that's where he, a guy like him can fly under the radar and make a big difference with the way he plays. He's a feisty player. He could score the greasy goal. And same thing, USA is going to focus all their attention shutting down McDavid, McKinnon. If a guy like Brandon Hagel can get going for Canada, that could be problematic for USA.
Bill, did you give a USA guy too, Anthony?
Yeah, I said Matthew Boldy.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I blanked for a second. Bill, who do you got as the under the radar players?
I mean, Anthony took my Canada one because that was Hagel, and that was the guy that I'd been talking about that needed to kind of prove himself and prove that he belonged with these guys. So, I mean, if there's a time to do it, it's tomorrow night. For the U.S., especially with like Quinn Hughes not being able to play unless certain player ends up coming down with an illness, I think a lot of people would be looking at Jake Sanderson. And if Jake Sanderson ends up playing tomorrow night, and it's not Quinn Hughes, then Jake Sanderson has, he can go out there and have a coming out party by having a real good game and kind of giving everybody that's doubted him a proverbial FU and a big one. So I would like to see Jake Sanderson have a real big game tomorrow if he's playing. Noah Hannafin is another one. Noah Hannafin has not been good in this tournament, and he struggled with multiple partners. He has not looked good with Adam Fox. Adam Fox has not looked good with him. That just seems like a pairing that is not meant for each other in any such sort of way. Hannafin could do himself a world of good by having a very good game tomorrow night.
He might not qualify as an under the radar player. I just think the way he plays sometimes, he's under the radar. I'm going to go to the Lightning teammate in Brayden Point because I know everybody's going to go, that's really not under the radar. Brayden Point, he's that guy that could just go around and you don't even notice him. The next thing you know, he's in the slot and he just drills a shot on you, or he gets or he makes a scrappy play, gets a rebound, puts it in. And I think he's always clutch. He is always clutch. He's been that way for Tampa Bay for years. And he's one of the reasons why they won back-to-back Stanley Cups, especially the first one. He's one of those reasons.
Oh, yeah.
And I think just don't sleep on that guy. The other under radar guy, and it sounds funny because he did score in the last game, or sorry, the Canada game. We're not even counting the Sweden game unless it's for another guy that I'll mention later. But I got to go with Dylan Larkin. Dylan Larkin, and you were talking about it before, Anthony. Matt Boldy set up that goal for Dylan Larkin. He intercepted that pass that Crosby threw out there, and Dylan Larkin, away he goes, 2-1 lead for USA, and they just basically shut it down after that. He has been incredible over the last month with Detroit, and he's looked great in this series. This was a guy that originally he was rotating with Chris Kreider in practices. Now he's the third line center. I think Dylan Larkin, he's gonna be a very crucial difference maker. We'll say it like that. All right. Prediction time, and then we're going to have a little bit of fun with this in a second, guys. So, Philk, who wins this game tomorrow night?
USA 3-2.
Regulation?
Regulation.
All right. Anthony?
I mean, my heart really, really wants to say USA. And maybe it's just because I've seen this movie before. But I'm gonna say Canada by a score of 4-3 in overtime.
Who gets the game winner then?
Mark Stone.
Wow. All right. This is possibly the toughest call we're going to have to make. And I think the best way to stop Canada is to slow them down. The U.S. ran, I believe they ran a 1-2-2 on them. They'd have to do it again. They'd have to frustrate Connor McDavid, not let him get going. As Anthony said, I've seen this movie a lot. I could see Canada winning this game, and U.S. scores first. Canada pulls ahead. U.S. either ties it or makes it close, and it's rough. I have to side with Connor Hellebuyck on this. Connor Hellebuyck, I think, has looked good. He had the softie against Finland, and then I'm not going to knock him for the goal against McDavid. I think Hellebuyck has to be the difference, and Jordan Binnington is not. So I am going to go 4-2, United States. 3-1 would not surprise me. I think there's going to be an empty net goal, and that's what's going to be the extra difference. Game-winning goal will be Jack Eichel. Will do it. Jack Eichel will get his first goal of the series.
He's going to be pivotal tomorrow night. I expect it. I think he might have the best game of his career tomorrow night.
Well, we're going to go into a comment Jack Eichel said leading into the first matchup. But first, Anthony, where do you think tomorrow night will rank in the U.S.-Canada rivalry?
I mean, well, it has all the potential to rank first with just how last game went, and how you have, unfortunately, how you have some of the political rhetoric involved in this game, whether you like it or not. It's there. So it's going to be super intense. You're going to be able to cut the tension in the air with a knife there inside that arena tomorrow night. I think it's going to be just a barn burner, just high intensity. I think every play is going to be big. So yeah, it has all the makings to end up being the best. But then again, there've been some obviously great moments in these two countries' history when they face off each other. So not going to put an exact number on it, but I'm going to say it could very well be up there when it's all said and done.
Phil?
I really don't know. I mean, it's too early to tell. I mean, there's a lot of riding on this for both teams, but it's not a full tournament. This isn't an Olympics. This isn't a World Cup of hockey. So I mean, yes, it's big for the Canada and US, but it's one game in a round robin in which 3 games were played for each team, and there were 4 teams. So this isn't the Olympics. This isn't the World Cup. This isn't a Canada Cup. It's not the same. So I don't think I could put that anywhere near like top 5 or anything.
I got to agree with you on that, Phil. And I think it's going to be outside the top 5 because, after all, USA has been dominant in the World Juniors. But this is definitely a statement and a time for USA Hockey to actually make a statement. Let's just say that word twice in that sentence. But to really let themselves be known, they are a powerhouse. And that this is getting Canada probably at their weakest because Jordan Binnington is a far cry from the two guys I mentioned earlier. Hell, even in '96, when the USA beat Canada in the 3-game series, they beat Curtis Joseph. And Curtis Joseph is still a great goaltender, somehow not in the Hall of Fame. But it's one of those things. And even looking at the backups, that Canada's goaltending has been their weakest part. We've been harping on this for a while. And right now you got US probably near the strongest that they've ever been. This isn't going to be 2010 in Vancouver. It is going to be 2002, and it's not going to be 96. And you might put this behind some of the World Juniors. But for the sake of the nations, and yes, Anthony hit the nail on the head with it. A little bit of the political rhetoric. It's all stupid to me, but I think that kind of gyms up some interest. And I would love to see what the numbers are going to be rating-wise after this game. But guys, that is our thoughts leading up to tomorrow night's games. What's your thoughts? Throw it down in the comments below. Let's take a quick message from DraftKings, and then we're going to do our segment called Who Says No? We're going to be talking about mock trades for the NHL trade deadline coming up next week. Hockey fans light the lamp this winter with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $5 pregame money line on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. If that wasn't enough excitement, you can turn small bets into bigger payouts with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more for your shot at an even bigger payout. Download the DraftKings Sports app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet $5 on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at the DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN.
It's a no for me, dog.
No.
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 Well, that is our usual segment that's on there, Impulsive Reactions. But this is one of our favorites that we have, which is Big Apple Hockey's Who Says No, where we're going to give you some mock trades and then ask you who's going to say no on this. And let's start. Let's also mention that our trade deadline special is going to be 2 weeks from Friday, March 7th. And it's going to be beginning at noon. We might have some guests. We're going to work that all out. It'd be great to have more people on. So let's start with this one, and let's start with a bit of a selling trade and a couple of selling trades on this one before we get to a buying one. But Mr. John Falkowski, we're going to go with Ryan Lindgren going to the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the New York Rangers will get back a second and a third. Who says no to that?
I think this could go through if the Rangers were to move on from Lindgren. I would do it. I just don't know if the front office would do it because it seems like they love this guy more than they should. I would take that and run, and then I would go and get another defenseman at the deadline. But I definitely think this could go through, and I think that GMs around the league might value him more than the fans would. And we've seen that time and time again with these stay-at-home defensemen. Jacob Trouba, he has no value. He has negative value, this and that. The Rangers somehow get not only Anaheim to take all $8 million of his remaining, AAV, but they not get Urho Vakanainen out of it. Mm-hmm. So I really love when people throw around terms like negative value and negative asset. And I think it gets thrown around way too much, and I don't really think people have a grasp of what that actually means or what it takes to get to that level, rather.
Anthony, who do you think is saying no to this?
I think I agree with Philk. I think this would go through. I mean, I think the Rangers are going to move on from him in the offseason. They're not going to get like a first-round pick for him. Obviously, his game has fallen off a little bit. So I think all things considered, second and a third is fair capital to get in return for a guy who has a lot of miles on his body. He's a pending UFA, doesn't provide much offense. So I think this could be a fair deal for both sides. So if the Rangers do decide they want to move on from Lindgren, I think this probably is around the return that you're looking for. Unless obviously, like anything, like things can change. I mean, if you have 6 teams that are highly interested in him, maybe you create a bidding war and you get a conditional first. But overall, as a general type of gauging his value, I think this is pretty fair.
I'm going to say the Leafs because I'm not sure if he nets a second-round pick. Ryan Lindgren's kind of having one of the worst seasons of his career. I mean, I had to double check his plus minus. Right now, it's just a -1. All of the Ranger pundits are basically calling him out every single night. 2 goals, 13 assists. Like, as much as I like Ryan Lindgren, I think the game he played really took a toll on him, and he's just taken such a step back. I'm not sure if they give up a second for him. It might be a third and a fourth, or maybe even just a third, but I don't know. And it's a guy that I like. I just don't know if he's got that worth to get all the way up to a second. But let's stick with another potential sell, and that's Chris Kreider going to the Boston Bruins for Trent Frederick, Chris Pelosi, who was a third-round draft pick in 2023 out of Quinnipiac, and a conditional first of 2026. We originally had the 2025 one in there because it's lottery protected, and we just didn't get a chance to change that. So we'll say it's a 2026 first rounder. Anthony, who says no to this one?
So again, if the Rangers were decided they wanted to retool or sell, however you want to call it, and it starts with Chris Kreider, I think they recognize that, I think other teams recognize that he's obviously having a down year. He does have another year left on his contract. So I think because of that, you're not going to get like a top prospect or prime assets. But I think a deal like this, the Bruins trade a UFA for a UFA. Frederick is younger, could have more long-term value to the Rangers. Pelosi, mid-range prospect. But the key in this deal is the 2025 first. The Rangers getting another first-round pick in a year which they traded their first. I think Chris Drury would have high value in getting that pick back. This way, he still has an additional draft capital in the form of a first. So overall, though, I do think I lean towards the Rangers saying no, just because if they do move on from Kreider, Drury might feel that he could get something a little better back in return. But honestly, with the year he's having, I'm not so sure. But I'll still say the Rangers say no.
And just let me say for clarification, this is this year's first round draft pick. There's another first round draft pick we changed up later. Sorry about that. Phil?
No, this is not enough. The Rangers would absolutely say no to this, and it's a garbage offer, to be honest with you. Trent Frederick is an impending UFA who could probably be had for second round pick and a top prospect, maybe a little more if the bidding war gets higher. But Trent Frederick is also not having a good year. He doesn't have any term left. If Boston says no, Don Sweeney is already a dumb enough general manager as it is, in my opinion. He's made some questionable moves. The Zadorov and Elias Lindholm contracts were ones that I fully questioned the minute that they were signed. And then if he were to reject this for Chris Kreider, that would be pretty laughable, because we don't even know what that condition is. And I imagine the conditional first is that they get to the Stanley Cup Finals. And if that's the case, then the Rangers are not getting a first round pick at that point. The Boston Bruins are not getting to the Stanley Cup Finals. Chris Kreider is not that piece that's putting them over the top. The center would have to be a piece that would help put them over the top, and they would still have to make other moves to get there. The East is going through Florida. We all know that. So Trent Frederick, an impending UFA, Chris Pelosi, who's a middling like C minus C level prospect, a third rounder from 2023, and then a conditional first that's probably not going to be met. No, this is not enough. If Chris Kreider had 1 year left on his contract, okay, maybe I could see that then. But Chris Kreider's got multiple years left. He's got term beyond this year. And this is not enough, even with Kreider having a down year. So no, this is absolutely, the Rangers would laugh at this. Drury would hang up the phone and probably block Sweeney's phone.
Well,
and I'm not even a Kreider fan.
Yeah, I am going to say that the Rangers say no to this one because they could probably get a bidding war up for Chris Kreider. I'm going to cite this statistic. The most power play goals since 2021, Leon Draisaitl, 88, Sam Reinhart, 68, Steven Stamkos, 58, Brayden Point, also 58, Chris Kreider, 57. So you're looking at a guy who's one of the best power play goal scorers in the league. I personally think you can get more out of it than just targeting a first-round draft pick and a pending free agent and a middling prospect, as we said before. And there would be a bidding war because power forwards are something, and scoring forwards, something everybody would covet at the deadline, even though I always tell you depth forwards and the depth defensemen are always what ends up getting moved. Speaking about guys that are scoring forwards, Kyle Palmieri, possibly going back to the New Jersey Devils. Mm-hmm. And the Islanders would get back a second-round pick. Anthony, who says no to this one?
So unlike Brock Nelson, I think, even if the Islanders are still in the playoff hunt, I think it makes sense to move Kyle Palmieri because I don't think there's no attachment to Palmieri in the sense of Nelson. Nelson, longtime Islander, could go down as one of the best post-Islander dynasty guys. Palmieri, shorter term, I think he's going to probably leave in free agency anyway. I think the Islanders aren't going to re-sign him. So I think you got to move him either way, even if they are in a playoff spot. I do feel like this is a guy that should go. For the Devils, Mercer's having a down year. I mean, their leading goal scorer is 27 goals. I think that's is it Jack? Yeah, it's Jack Hughes. After that, Nosen has 18, but like Timo Meyer's struggling to score a little bit. Kyle Palmieri is on pace for 24 goals, so I think that would give them some much-needed depth scoring. And a second-round pick, I think, is fair value for a guy like Palmieri. So the Islanders lose out in what they paid to get him. Obviously, they paid a first and a prospect to get him. This time, on the reverse side of it, they get a second-round pick in return. But I think that's fair value for Kyle Palmieri. So I think that this one might go through.
Phil?
I say the Islanders say no. I think they could get more. How much more? I'm not sure. But I think a guy like Palmieri, who plays the type of game that you want come playoff time, would actually get a little more than that. I think you would add like maybe a prospect or maybe another second or a third on top of that. And maybe that's the area that you're looking at Kyle Palmieri at. I'm not saying like a blue chip prospect or an A level or even a B plus level prospect, but like a B minus C plus C level prospect somewhere in that area, or another pick anywhere from 2 to 4, depending on who it is. I think that's more of what you're looking at for a return for Palmieri.
That's it, and it's going to be interesting to see where he lands. He's coming off a 30-goal season. I'm inclined to agree with you, Phil. I think the Islanders will do better than a second-round pick. So you got a guy that's still performing well, and they could probably get a little bit more. So I'll say the Islanders say no to this one. But let's go right back to the Islanders. JG Pageau going to Minnesota and coming back for the Islanders, a 4th-round pick in 2025 and a 3rd-round pick in 2026. Phil, who's the one saying no to this one?
I don't know if I look at Minnesota and see them as needing that type of player. If they're going to go get a center, it makes sense for them to get somebody who's more of a top 6 center. They have middle 6 centers. I mean, could they use that type of player and maybe play him on a wing? Sure, but I don't know if he's really that effective anymore. I don't think of him as the player that he was when he signed that contract. Yeah, he probably will score somewhere between 30, 35 points this year. But I don't know if that really does it for them. I mean, he's kind of redundant in their lineup, if you ask me. I'm going to say Minnesota, no, because I think they were better off. I know every Islander fan would do that deal. Oh, they would absolutely do that deal, and you're lying if you say otherwise. Because that guy is not living up to that contract, and Islander fans would love to get rid of that contract and be out of it because you're paying him $5 million next year. And that's another big reason why I don't see Minnesota doing this, because there's term left on it, and he's horribly overpaid. So if there was retention, maybe, but I still think he's a redundant piece in their lineup. They need more top six forwards and less middle six guys. So Minnesota says no.
Anthony, what do you think? Is it Pajot that goes over there? Because they're trying to get Nelson.
I'll admit I struggled with the team. I was more focusing on what the return could be for a guy like Pajot. But Pajot is actually on pace for 15 goals and 40 points, which would be one of his better years in the last few. And all things considered, a fourth and a third in 2026 isn't, it's not really much. That's not a lot either going in return for the Islanders. So I think that type of return is fair value. It's a matter of finding the team that he fits the best on. But you got to remember, yes, he does have one more year left on his contract at $5 million, but the salary cap is going up by a decent amount. So he's not a net negative player. Like I said, 40 points for a third line center. That's not bad. And again, I'm not saying a second round pick or even prospects. I think a fourth and a third is pretty fair value for Pajot. So I think maybe not specifically Minnesota, but I think whatever team is interested in him, I think to that a 2025 fourth and a third is fair value. I think that could go through.
This is a tough one. I'm thinking I'm going to agree with Phil. I think the extra year might scare some people off. You maybe see about retention, and then I think maybe this would be something. Yeah, because Pajot he's still got another $5 million for next year, but the Islanders would love to move him, and this year would be a great time. And as Christopher says right here, fourth in faceoff percentage. What I always say, guys, depth forwards. They always look for depth forwards. Let's go to some buying deals going around the league on this one. Let's go right back to the New York Rangers. And Phil, we'll start with you on this one. Jared McCann and Jamie Alexiak go to the New York Rangers. To Seattle, they would send Keandre Miller, Adam Enstrom, Drew Fortescue, and a first-round draft pick in 2026. This is where I needed to be corrected from earlier.
Who the fuck came up with this? Are you trolling?
No, McCann's a very good player, and so is Alexiak. Keandre Miller is bad.
Okay. Aside from the points I've made about not wanting to give Keandre Miller that massive deal, why are the Rangers going out and trading that type of player for middling players? Do you ever see guys like Keandre Miller or even Seth Jones when he was in this situation, at a similar age? Do you see them being traded for guys like that?
Who are you for? Jared McCann?
Yeah, like Jared McCann is a good player, but Jared McCann is highly overrated from a 40-goal season a few years back. Like we're not like this. Like he had 29 and 62 last year, but no, this is not the deal that they need to be making. The Rangers absolutely say no to this, and it's entirely way too much to give up for these two. Like, I'm sorry, but when I look at deals that have gone down with defensemen over the years, remember how everyone said, oh, well, just because Chiarelli's an idiot and he gave up Taylor Hall for Adam Larson, that doesn't mean that that's going to be the standard for all those trades from now on. And then look at what happened afterwards. Seth Jones got dealt for Ryan Johansson. Who thought that was going to happen because Jones wasn't fully established yet? And then what happened with David Jiricek? He got dealt for what? He got all of that, and he's done what exactly at the NHL level? These deals show you that young defensemen with pedigree, with potential and talent are valued much higher than fans think. There is no way that the Rangers would do this deal. Again, Drury would laugh at Francis and hang up the phone. And then they're going to send one of their top defensive prospects and a first-round pick on top of Miller for McCann and Oleksiak? Like, get me somebody else that's a true top six difference maker, and then we can talk about that. But McCann is not that guy.
That's fair. I'm just going to ask you this question then. Jared McCann, if you want to discount his 40-goal, 70-point season, that's fine. But last year he had 62 points. This year he's on pace for 60 points. And Jamie Oleksiak is a top 4 defenseman. So what do you think is fair value? Because those are good players. Jared McCann and Jamie Oleksiak are good players. They're not bad.
I'm not debating fair value for them. I'm telling you that Keandre Miller is not going to be moved in a deal for those guys. That's what I'm telling you.
So what do you think Keandre Miller's worth then? Because he's not playing good hockey.
Keandre Miller is going to be moved in a hockey trade. He's not going to be moved in a deal like this. I can see them holding on to him and giving him that deal, even though I don't want them to do that. But this is not a deal that they need to be giving up a top 4 defenseman in for Jared McCann. Like, if you were to tell me that they were going to go give this up and they would have to include more for Mikko Rantanen, okay, I understand that then at that point. That's going to require a lot more on top of Keandre Miller, but at least I understand them giving up Keandre Miller in a deal like that. Not for Jared McCann. This would be stupid. This would be the type of deal that could get you fired in the future.
That's fine. I mean, Jared McCann on his own, a 60-point player. I think a player of that skill level, caliber, I think he's returning a first-round pick and a prospect.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I don't think he's returning an established top 4 defenseman who, although is inconsistent, has the potential to be much more.
And once again, you guys are just saying, to be fair.
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 And to be fair, also, I would have to say the Rangers say no to this because Drew Fortescue was a hang-up in the JT Miller trade, supposedly. So
I mean, I don't know if I heard that, but
I heard that from somebody else that the Rangers didn't want to move him.
No, it was. I don't know which writer said it. You're right, Mark. There was a writer that said that the hang-up was that the Vancouver wanted him, but Drury didn't relent there. I don't know which writer.
I mean, listen, I'm on board with that. He's their top defensive prospect right now. So I totally I can understand that. I just didn't hear it myself. So Mark, good on you for finding that.
Yeah, but then I had to question myself in the middle of that. All right, let's go to the West Coast.
Saying Friedman, by the way.
Yeah. Let's go to the West Coast where Alex Tuch would go to the LA Kings. They would send back a first-round draft pick, Liam Greentree, and Alex Turcotte. Anthony, who says no?
So Greentree was a former first round pick himself recently. I think 2020, 23 or 24. I don't remember, but Alex Tuch, his name has been out there lately. I know Dave Pagnotta said that he doesn't think it would happen because Buffalo would have the team acquiring Tuch would have to give the Kings ransom. But I think Buffalo and Kevin Adams need to make a big change. I know they don't want to start a rebuild, but if they can get a first-round pick in this year's draft, plus a good prospect like Liam Greentree, and then Alex Turcotte, well, he hasn't really established himself as well as people thought he would from when he was drafted. He's still a young player that is at least starting to show signs of life. So I mean, I think this is pretty fair value. It's ultimately going to come down to whether or not Buffalo wants to do more of a retool or a full-on rebuild. But LA, I think Tuck is exactly the kind of pro LA needs to kind of advance further in the West because they failed. They've come short the last couple of years. But I do think this has the potential to go through. I just wonder if Buffalo would prefer to maybe either get back, a little bit more of a player that can help them right now, or more futures. But I think the value is there.
Phil?
That's a lot of value for Tuck. That's essentially 3 first-round picks. Say what you want about Turcotte, but his development has taken, I would say, an unexpected spike this year, between this year and last year. A lot of people are looking at him as kind of a bust. He was entering bust territory, and now it looks like he's about to carve himself a decent career. So, I mean, the value is pretty good for Buffalo there, but having listened to Dave Pagnotta last night talk about it on with Kate Pettersson and seeing other writers talk about this, Buffalo doesn't seem like they want futures. They want like players now. They want young players that can help them now. So they want established young NHL talents that can help now, or in the very near future. And I think Buffalo is going to say no to this. I also think Alex Tuck might say no to it. He technically was born in Syracuse, but he was raised in Buffalo, from what I've been told. And I think that he wants to stay there. Is Tuck the piece that gets LA over Edmonton? That's actually a really good question, MYR for life. I like that you brought that up. I don't know. Is it? I mean, they have a good, solid team. They have the defense. They have the structure that they want to play with. The coach is getting the most out of the players. As I've said previously, he's a guy that I would give a Jack Adams nod to. So yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Maybe he could be, but I think Buffalo might say no to this, and I think Alex Tuck might say no as well.
Well, let's go to a player that's been dealt recently, and he might get flipped right now because there's been talk about that happening. But Mikko Rantanen going from Carolina to Vegas, and Carolina getting back William Karlsson, Brett Howden, Brendan Brisson, and a second-round pick. Anthony, who says no?
I think Carolina's going to say no. I mean, I get that Rantanen may not re-sign, and they likely don't want to lose him for nothing. So I think that might be forced to flip him. But William Karlsson has been injured. I mean, really good player when he's healthy. He's a guy that could score 30 goals and provide good defensive hockey. Brett Howden has actually, as much as Ranger Fuse maligned in New York, he actually carved out a decent career in Vegas. Solid player. And then Brandon Brisson, I mean, he hasn't really developed in the way I think people thought he would. I mean, he had a really good collegiate career in Michigan. Vegas doesn't really have many deep prospects in the regard of could eventually be NHL players. Brisson has thought to be one of them. He still could, but and the second is, the second's not bad. But I think if Carolina wants to flip Rantanen, I think they're going to look for another type of package where they gave up Natchez. I don't know if that's realistic. But this would be a very Vegas move, though, right? They find a way to get the big fish, and I could certainly see them being interested. I just don't know if this is enough from Carolina's end. So I'll say Carolina says no.
Look,
Carolina says no. To me, it's not enough. It's just not enough. Anthony talked about Brisson before. He was a 2020 first rounder. Yeah, had a great career at Michigan, but I mean, he's playing in Henderson right now for the Silver Knights. I mean, this is a guy that's 5 years beyond drafted. He's got a handful of points at the NHL level. He's got 8 points in 24 career games. Played 9 games this year with no point. William Karlsson, very good year last year. considering that in 2018 he had that year where everybody thought he's definitely not coming anywhere near this again. And he didn't for a while. But 30 and 60 and 70 games last year, there's something there with William Karlsson. He's a good player. But again, Anthony said, injured currently, not having a good year this year. So, if he hits when he hits free agency, it might not be looking too good for him. Because he's actually no, he's got a few years left. I'm sorry. But he's got a couple of years to kind of, be on that contract. But you know what? He's getting up there in age. That's somebody that's getting older. So I don't know if Carolina really wants that. Anthony talked about how they want something like Natchez. I don't think they're going to get that.
No.
I really don't think they're going to get that, especially when the guy that doesn't want to sign with the real good team in Colorado gets dealt to a really good team in Carolina, and they're floating around that they're willing to drop $100 million on him, and he's still not willing to sign. That's going to be a red flag for teams giving up things for him. So Carolina is probably going to, I'm not going to say pennies on the dollar, but they're not going to get the package that, that they gave up to get him. I don't think they're going to get close to that. So Carolina is probably going to say no to this, but they're not going to like the return that they end up with.
Whew. We're going to be talking more about him in the Bar Talk segment in a few minutes, but just to say this is tough to even think about them even flipping him. But I do have to go. Carolina's got to say no. They're gonna try to get a bigger package out of it, and I think you guys are right. I just don't know if that matches what's going out. But let's go to another team that's in the playoffs right now. You have Dylan Cousins and Bowen Byram going to Detroit for Michael Rasmussen, Marco Kasper, and a first-round draft pick. Phil, who's the one that says no to this one?
Detroit, not enough. Not enough going back the other way. The 2025 first is probably going to be middle of the round, somewhere around there, because Detroit's trying to fight for a playoff spot. Kasper he's a decent prospect. I don't know if he's enough of a needle mover of a prospect for me to be the guy. And then Rasmussen, what is he really at the NHL level right now? Kasper's a former first round pick, but he's got 20 points in 50 games. He's 3 years removed now from his draft year. I'm probably going to say Buffalo says no to this because it's not enough for me here. I think they could get more if they package both of those guys together. I do think that Byram is going to be the type of defenseman that's dealt in a hockey deal. So that's another thing that I would see happening for Detroit to say, or for Buffalo to say no for.
Anthony?
I think Buffalo says no too. Marco Kasper is 8th overall in 2022, so he's still young. He's got good potential. But for me, Rasmussen is here. The player in this deal would need to be upgraded. He's like a 30-point forward at the NHL level right now. I think if Detroit replaced him with someone a little better, maybe Soderblom, maybe there's more value there. But I think Buffalo says no. I think they can get more if they package these guys together.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Buffalo needs to say no to this one. I know that they're trying to move Byram because it's sort of like, why do you have him? You already got Power and Dahlin that's in front of him. So he's never really going to reach his potential over there. Kind of like the same thing with him in Colorado. But I think Buffalo would probably be the ones to say no to this one. And also, they could probably find something better for Cousins. He's still under contract for a long time. One last one, guys, and then we're going to go to Bar Talk. Going to Columbus, Elias Pettersson and Carson Soucy. Going to Vancouver, Kent Johnson, Gavin Brindley, and Ivan Provorov.
Ivan
Provorov. Yes. I don't know. I went with Ivan. I was trying to make him sound.
Yeah, I think he's like thinking of Pudge Rodriguez right now.
Ivan Provorov. Who says no to this one? Anthony.
I mean, I think Elias Pettersson would fit in Columbus, and they've been linked to the Blue Jackets. Have been linked to him. I just think with the year he's having, and how he performed in Four Nations, Columbus may not want to give up a guy like Kent Johnson, who's starting to show signs of life. And then Gavin Brindley is a good prospect out of Michigan too. Had a good career there, and was a high pick himself. So Provorov, they're shopping, so I don't know how much of a loss he would be. But I don't know. I mean, Pettersson's definitely the best player in the trade when he's on his game. I just don't know with the struggle he's been having if Columbus would want to move a guy like Kent Johnson, like again, who's starting to really have show the skill he has for Columbus this year. So I'm actually going to go against the grain here and say maybe Columbus says no.
All right, Phil.
Columbus says no. There's just no way. I don't think they want to give up Kent Johnson, who's almost at a point per game right now, for Elias Pettersson, who has a massive contract and has been about a 55 point pace player since signing his deal last season. When you look at his regular season numbers, playoff numbers, and regular season numbers this year, and then he was just a complete no-show in the Four Nations tournament. Like, he played worse than what I thought Mika Zibanejad was going to play. And that's saying a lot. So, Elias Pettersson, I had one of the worst tournaments of any player that I've seen in that tournament. He did not play well. And I know it's a 3-game sample size, so you can't really say a whole lot. But when you're going up with the best players in your country against the best players of the other countries in that tournament, you're expected to at least look decent. Pettersson looked like a ghost. If they weren't talking about him being a ghost, you wouldn't have noticed him. So no, yeah. I don't think Columbus does this. I mean, Pettersson could fit their trajectory, but why would you go give up a young core player like Kent Johnson that looks like he's really starting to come into his own, plus Gavin Brindley, to get Pettersson? And then, I mean, Susi for Provorov, sure, that's probably an upgrade for Vancouver, but Provorov could probably get maybe a first from if a team is dumb enough to do it. There's always a team that'll be out there and say, "Hey, I'll give up a first-round pick for this defenseman." So, I mean, not that I'm saying that Provorov is not worth it, but there's going to be teams that will overpay at the trade deadline for players when they get caught in a panic. So, I'd say Columbus says no to this.
I'm going to go with Columbus. We're going to talk more about Elias Pettersson in a moment, whether or not he needs a change of scenery. Phil, this is going to be one that, I'm just not seeing it from Columbus. And even though Provorov is kind of one of those guys, I can't put a finger on what he is now. I remember a few years ago when he led all defensemen in scoring, goal scoring, I should say. Just seems like a long ways away from where he was hyped. And a lot of people thought he was going to be something a little bit bigger. Hasn't really achieved that potential. All right, everybody, that was the end of our Who Says No segment, where we were engaging at least some of these mock trades, see which ones are going to go through. But let's move on to do some NHL Bar Talk.
Shot. This is the easiest I've ever had to answer.
I'm going to say beer. I can't even begin to describe.
I'm actually going to go crazy. I'm going to buy everybody around on this one. And welcome back, everybody, to Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk, where we gauge our confidence on these NHL topics. Based on no choice to drink, so confident that you're buying around, so I'll have a beer. Oh, God, I need a shot. Please. Play along down in the comments below, guys. And also, feel free to suggest a topic. Maybe we can have one at the end. Let's start with the Four Nations face-off, guys, there is a lot of big news and a lot of buzz that is coming out of it. The Four Nations face-off had an astonishing 10.1 million viewers. Saturday night is U.S. faced Canada. It's the largest non-playoff audience since the 2011 Winter Classic. That was the first time they moved the Winter Classic to a Saturday night, and it was absolutely electric. And there was also the HBO 24/7 series that was in there. The gold medal game in 2010 drew 27.6 million people. The NHL also announced that the World Cup of Hockey is coming back in February. And the only NHL All-Star game that's scheduled right now is at UBS Arena in 2026. So I ask you guys, the NHL should only do the NHL All-Star game every 4 years. Milk?
Every 4 years.
Yeah, because you figure Olympics, World Cup of Hockey.
4 nations and then All-Star game. Okay. Yeah, I could get on board with this. I could. You're gonna have an extended break for like the World Cup of Hockey at that time, and instead of playing the World Cup of Hockey in the middle of the or at the beginning of the season, or like before the start of the season, I should say, like they've done previously. Okay, I could get on board with this. I mean, what I would suggest then, if they're going to do this, is that they just announce NHL All-Star teams, and they kind of make selections and just say these players made their selective All-Star teams for their conferences and stuff like that. So this way there is like an All-Star thing. So this way players get honored for it. But yeah, I could get on board with this. I'm okay with this. I'll buy around, actually.
All right, Anthony.
So you got 2026 All-Star game, and then 2028 you have the 2026 you have the All-Star game and the Olympics, and then 2028 you have the World Cup of Hockey, right? And then 2030 would be another Olympics. So I guess what do you have then in 2027 and in 2029? Nothing. So years where there's no Olympic competition, what's the advantage of not doing an All-Star game? Again, I know it's not like, players aren't really the biggest fan of it and whatnot, but I mean, and it's, what do you do in its place? So I don't know what the incentive is to just do nothing. So I do agree. I like international competition much more than an All-Star game, but in years where there's not going to be any sort of international competition, I mean, why not just do an All-Star game? What else are you going to do? So I'll say beer. I mean, unless in the off years you want to do a 4 nations tournament, or 5 nations, or whatever you want to do, I'd be okay with that if they did that in its place. And then you're talking All-Star games gone altogether. But I don't know how realistic that is. So I'll say beer.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw that beer up for you, and I'm gonna take it down, put it right back up again, because I'd be all for this. Look, if you're gonna do the Olympics, and then you're also gonna do a World Cup of Hockey, because they're trying to get them back in the Olympics. That would be 2 of the 4 years. So what do you do with the other 2 years? The NHL has actually been one of the more out-of-the-box leagues in their thinking about their All-Star games, and I would give them credit for this. I would do an All-Star game 2 of the 4 years and tinker with the formats of it each time. Don't have it be the same thing, because what happens is everybody knows the 3-on-3 tournaments. We've all seen it. They did the fantasy drafts. That was fun. They did USA versus the world. I mean, it gets a little stale, and you got to figure out a different way to do it. But at least you do get the celebration of hockey. And to answer one of the commenters, yes, you would still include All-Star bonuses that are in there. But
yeah, that's actually a good point, Mark. If you get named to that, then this way the players don't lose out on bonuses that could be in contracts.
All right. And going with one guy who is super pumped for this game, this is a comment that Jack Eichel made after the Finland game. about the Canada game, saying it's probably the biggest game I've played in some time, maybe ever. And this is a guy that won a Stanley Cup, played in the Frozen. He played in the Frozen Four with BU, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I believe it actually thought he played in the national championship. But anyway, won a Stanley Cup. Jack Eichel will show that he is a Selke Caliber player. Anthony, sorry.
What was that?
Just, I had to fix a typing on there.
Oh, okay. I don't like that you don't show us anymore your errors are, so we can laugh.
Yeah, because I don't want any errors. That's the whole point.
Well, actually, I do get you there. He's not going to show anybody he's a Selke Caliber player tonight because he's not playing tonight. He's playing tomorrow. But I think I love that you went through all that trouble to fix the error that you made, but you didn't catch that one. No, I think he's already shown that he's a Selke Caliber. I think he's already shown that he's a Selke Caliber player. So I don't know if tomorrow is gonna put it over the edge. I think he really had his. I feel like you're making. I think he's already had his.
I can't stop laughing because you don't stop laughing.
I think he's already had his coming out party. To be honest with you, I think he's already shown that he's a Selke Caliber player. So no, I don't think tomorrow is gonna prove that. I think he already is.
All right, so that's a shot for that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Phil?
It's pretty much the same thing. I think he's already proven in this tournament that he's a hell of a defensive player. If you've watched him in Vegas, the defense, and I was saying that the other day, I think it was last week when I was saying it on the street, or
I think it was yesterday.
Yesterday. Sorry, but getting my days mixed up now. But I think that when you watch Jack Eichel, you see a player that's evolved, and I said it yesterday that he's reminding me of Modano now when Hitchcock came along. He went to the right team. He's playing with the right guys. Jari Lehtinen was a big help for Mike Modano defensively, and he won 3 Selkies as a winger. He's the only player to do that, the only winger to do that. This is an award that's historically been given to centers. Jari Lehtinen was the guy that broke the mold at wing. And Marian Hossa probably should have won 1 or 2 in his lifetime, but he had to deal with a guy named Patrice Bergeron winning just because Patrice Bergeron was just that damn good. But Eichel has been incredible. Stone has helped him along. Vegas has helped him along. I think he should get some real votes for it this year.
Let's make it a hat trick. I'm going to go with that it's a shot, that he's already proven it. I thought he proved it in Vegas' first cup run when he really helped shut down Connor McDavid in that series. But when you start saying Selke Caliber, that's the reason why it's a shot. If it was that he might win his first Selke this year, and tomorrow night might be an announcement of it, even though it's not really an NHL qualifying game. It's one of those things. He's going to show exactly what he's made of, and that he's a big time player. Guys, as mentioned before, our NHL trade deadline show will be March 7th, and we're going to begin it at noon. Unless there's some big news, we might even go on earlier. Take a look at the Eastern Conference standings. Wildcard 1, Ottawa 62 points. Wildcard 2 is Detroit at 61. And way back at 58 and 57, the Rangers and the Islanders.
You got Carolina and Columbus confused. Columbus is 60 points. Carolina's in the top 3.
Nope, that should have been Columbus. That's right. But anyway, Chris Drury will make a big splash at the trade deadline, boys. Sorry, Phil. Rattled, guys. A little rattled.
It's all right.
All right.
Yeah, I still actually. You know what? Before I say anything, let's. What are we talking about with big?
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's
Like is Yanni, like for instance,
Like I'm not trying to be a pain in the ass here.
Let's say
I
another
genuinely want to
JT
know
Miller level.
what like realm we're talking in here.
Like another JT Miller level trade.
Okay. I'm gonna go beer, just because with this, it's tough to make another deal like that when you've already made a deal like that this season. But it seems like they're trying to make the playoffs desperately, and I know that a lot of people saying, "Oh, Chris Drury's not in the hot seat." I think that seat is warmer than people think. I really do think that's the case. So, I don't know if it could get to that level, just because I don't know if that type of deal is available outside of Rantanen. But I do think that he is looking for another big move. And if he could make another move that could change the culture, not just with a rental, like, I mean, someone that's going to be there longer term and kind of help mold this team in a different direction, I definitely think he would make that move if it came about.
Anthony, what do you think? Is there another big move in Chris Drury's sleeve?
Yeah, I agree with Phil. I mean, because like for instance, like is Yanni Gord, like if they acquired Yanni Gord, that wouldn't be like a big splash. So when you look at who's out there that would quantify that, as Phil is saying, like Mikko Rantanen, yes, that would. I don't think the Rangers are going to acquire Mikko Rantanen. So that's the thing. I don't know how many big name guys are out there that would make it be a big splash. There's very few, right? I mean, there's Rantanen and I mean, like Elias Pettersson, maybe if he's still available, maybe he would quantify as that.
Yeah, but they're definitely not going to do that now.
Yeah.
Now.
So a lot of these guys that are available, like Yanni Gord, Dylan Cousins. I mean, they're just sizable trades, but I don't know if I would classify it as a big splash. So for that reason, I'm going to say beer. I do think he's going to make another move or moves. I just don't know if you'll be able to classify it as like a big splash.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll go beer on this one too, guys. I think he's going to be really aggressive. I think he's going to have to be. I just don't know if that player's out there that's really going to be that big splash. I do think Yanni Gord would be a splash, just not a big splash. So he's also injured right now. So that might also affect the trade market for him. Drury's all in. He made his bed. Now he's going to lie in it. So let's see what they're going to do in 2 weeks for that trade deadline. And the Islanders 4 points back of the Detroit Red Wings. You look at those numbers that Kyle Palmieri is putting up: 16 goals, 21 assists, 37 points. Anthony, the Islanders should move Kyle Palmieri regardless of their playoff positioning at the deadline.
So we touched on this in the Who Says No. I do think that they should, because if, for instance, like especially if Lou brings in a player, if Lou also does like a semi-buy move and brings up
I think that's Lou trying to silence you, Anthony.
Yeah, Lou's trying to silence me. No, but I think it makes sense for the Islanders to maybe bring in a guy with term and then move Palmieri, because he's going to be a UFA that they're likely not going to bring back. So, I'm going to say round. I think they should look into moving Palmieri and also bring in a guy that can help you, especially if they're 4-3-2, 1 point out of a playoff spot. With that said, I do think that you don't move them regardless. Like for instance, if they only will get offered a 4th round pick, just as an example, you don't move them at that point. But I mean, if you get a decent return offered to you, I think you should take it no matter where you are in the standings. So I'll say round.
Phil,
I would say round. I definitely agree with Anthony on this. Like I said before, I think you can get more for him than what was mentioned in that mock proposal in the Who Says No segment. So I think it would make sense, especially for a team like the Islanders who don't have the greatest prospect pool, who are, I believe the Athletic had them ranked in the bottom 5 to 10. If it was Scott Wheeler's rankings were. I would definitely move him regardless, especially if you get the slightest inkling that he's not going to re-sign and he's going to test free agency, then just do it. And if he can't get what he's looking for in free agency, then you can always re-sign him.
Mm-hmm. And I think you always got to worry about improving your team. So I'm going to go round on this one too. And as you guys said, Lou does these like semi-sell / buys. Like he might look and add a player, and who knows, maybe like they increase the production and try to get something of their money's worth for Pierre Engvall, which they're never going to get with that contract. But Lou tends to like add on some players and try to get like, it's not necessarily selling, but still a hockey trade is usually what he'll try to make with that. All right. Speaking about which, we talked about this a little bit before, guys. And if you look at the Carolina Hurricanes, January 25th, they acquire the pending UFAs, Mikko Rantanen, Taylor Hall. Since then, 3-1. Like, we gave up Marty Necas for this.
Woof.
Anthony, oh no, we'll go back to Philk. Sorry. Philk, Hurricanes going to move Mikko Rantanen by March 7th.
I'm actually going to go round here. I don't see him signing a deal with them. And I'm not sure if I totally buy that Dundon wants to offer him $100 million. I could see it from the perspective, and I've said this, that you can't afford to have Jake Gensel Part 2. So you've either got to close that deal or you got to move him. Because if you get nothing for him after giving up Marty Necas, it looks really bad for Tulsa.
Yeah.
It looks really, really bad for him. And that's the kind of move that could either put you on the hot seat or get you fired. You did all that. You went all in and you couldn't close it. Goodbye. So, I do think that he's going to – I think he's going to hit free agency. And I think he's going to get moved again. And I think the Hurricanes are going to have to take a lesser offer than what they gave up to get him.
Anthony.
Don Waddell needs to do what Garth Snow did. He traded for Thomas Vanek, tried to keep him, couldn't, and moved him at the deadline. Granted, he got less back in what he gave up to acquire.
Eric Tulsky.
What?
Eric Tulsky.
Sorry, yeah, you're right. I ended myself. Waddell's in Columbus. Look at me. No, I think you got to move him if you're Carolina. You can't afford to give him up for nothing. You can't afford to lose him for nothing. And the interesting part about it for me is when you wonder why he's not going to re-sign, it makes you scratch your head because Hurricanes, good team, check, right? Willing to offer him anything he wants, check. And the Hurricanes have a large contingent of Finnish players on the roster, check. So there's those three things, and he still doesn't, again, speculation, he still doesn't want to re-sign. So that makes you wonder, does he have a specific location in mind? Does he have a specific team he wants to play for? Because why aren't you re-signing with a team that's good, is going to offer you what you want, and has people around you that makes you comfortable?
I don't know if I agree with that.
What part?
With the fact that why does he want to sign? Like I mean, we got to remember, this guy has put up some massive numbers, and he's going to be headed to free agency, and he's going to have a bidding war for him. Even though I do think that whoever signs him to that massive deal might end up regretting it somewhat, because I think his numbers are going to suffer away from Makar and McKinnon. Not that I think that he's going to be a bad player, but I think he could be maybe a point per game player and not the 100-point player that he was with them.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to disagree for a different reason, guys. So I'm going to go.
My answer to that was round.
Oh,
I think they're going to move him. I just think it's going to affect what team like Phil mentioned in the Who Says No. Teams are going to be skeptical moving assets for him because, like, he may not re-sign with that new team either. So Carolina's in a tough spot.
Yeah, I'm gonna just extend a little bit from what you're thinking. I'm gonna flip this slightly though. First, I'm gonna say beer on this one, guys, because I think there is a chance they can move him, and they might have to. But they're 3-3-1. They really haven't got any production. Rantanen was a complete shock when he got traded, and I think about the quote from Phil Esposito that the first time he ever got traded in his career, it was a bigger shock to him than both of his parents dying. And of course, that's a famous story about Don Cherry and Bobby Orr being in his hotel room, and he sat there quietly and then said, "And if it's New York, I'm jumping out the window." And Don Cherry says, "Bobby, open up the window." So it's one of those things that I think Rantanen also might want to stay. That Carolina looks like they got a shot at being really good, and as you just said, Phil, his numbers. Everybody's looking at his numbers, think they're all going to take a hit. Right now, he's only making, I think it's a $4.25 million that he's on the books for, maybe around there. And he wants a substantial pay raise and show that he's a superstar. He might need to stay in Carolina, and maybe this little break with the Four Nations kind of gives him a mental reset. And he might say, "I'm going to ride it out here." I know he's got a modified no trade still, but I don't think I just, like you said, I don't know if the trade's going to be there for Carolina. I also don't know if Rantanen's going to just throw in the towel that easily on them. Guys, as I mentioned before, the Ottawa Senators are leading in the wild card standings. They have not made the playoffs since losing to the Pittsburgh Penguins in 2017. Anthony, Ottawa Senators will be the most active Atlantic Division team at the trade deadline.
I'm gonna go beer. I think they're a team that haven't gotten the playoffs in a long time. I think the pressure is certainly on them to take the next step. In the month of February, they're in a playoff spot. I think there's a lot of pressure for them to get in, and I think that they're gonna look to ways to make their team better, and I think they might be aggressive. Florida, I mean, they won the Cup last year. They're sitting on top. So I don't know how aggressive they'll be and, who's out there, what they're going to be looking to add. Toronto, it's going to be hard for them to make moves. They're up there right against the cap. Tampa Bay is trying to get separation between third and a wild card spot. I mean, I think they'll be active. And then you have Boston. They're kind of a bubble team right now. So, I think you might see a case where Ottawa is the most aggressive here out of all those teams. So I'll stick with beer. Only because – the only reason why I do say beer there is I also wonder, how aggressive, maybe the Panthers have philosophy. Well, we really, really want to make sure that, we repeat, and maybe they make a bold move but that's the only reason why I'm saying beer.
Phil,
I'm going to say beer also because of pretty much the same reason, but I had a different team in mind. I think Tampa is going to be aggressive. I think they're a team that's playing better than many people expected with the loss, with their losses, especially over time. But Tampa seems like they could be a team that could beat Florida with the right additions. And I think if anyone who beats Florida, that entire conference becomes more wide open at that point if you beat the Panthers. I really do think the whole thing just gets blown open and it could be anybody's game. So I think Tampa's management, I think Brisbois is going to look at that. He's going to say, what moves can I make? And they have $5 million in deadline cap space. They've got the availability to go make multiple moves. So there also could be players that they could probably ship out in order to help their cause. They have multiple second-round picks this year. They have multiple fourth-round picks this year, multiple sevenths. I know that's not really saying a lot, but you could throw that in a trade to kind of increase quantity. But, I mean, J.J. Moser, I think he's still on IR. I'm not really sure about that. They really don't have any dead cap space. But they could use upgrades in the top six, middle six, and bottom six. Their forward group could use a major upgrade, and they could use another defenseman. And I can see them making moves for both. Jared McCann actually makes a lot of sense to them.
All right. Well, you know what? I was going to try to make a case for either Steve Yzerman or Steve Staios in this case. Bill, you made it for me. I'm going to have to go down to a beer on this one because I think Ottawa kind of needs to make some moves in order to try to make the playoffs because they got the Rangers coming up behind them. You have Columbus that they're not going away, and the Islanders are still there. They just went on that big winning streak. Who knows? They could probably rattle it off again. But this is the Atlantic Division teams. That's what we're talking about. Gotta go with Brisebois and think he's gonna put something together. All right, let's go all the way out west, guys, to the guy we talked about in the last segment again, Elias Pettersson, 16 goals, 32 assists, 48 points. And did you guys know there was someone on Twitter that called him out? I have it right here. Let's just put that in. It was our Mr. Anthony LaRocco who said, he really isn't playing that well. You look at those things, those numbers, 16 goals, 32 assists, 48 points this season. This is a guy that had 177 points and 142 games in the previous couple of years. So I'm going to go right back to you. Actually, I'm going to go to you on this one, Phil. Is Anthony right? Does Elias Pettersson need a change of scenery?
I'm starting to believe that this is the case. I'm really not sure if he's a 100-point player, though. I'm not. I'm starting to think that might be an outlier year. I actually pointed this out a few weeks ago when the Miller trade was made, or when it was about to be made. I was the one that put up the amount of points that he had in the amount of games that he played since the extension. So I'm definitely I'm really, I would say yes. I'm going to say beer, but I do think that Vancouver is going to give him the rest of the season to figure himself out. And if he doesn't, I mean, we're going to probably see that Mike Commodore tweet that says, pack your shit.
Yeah.
You're going Elias Pettersson. So,
I mean, right now his production is behind Connor Garland, but Mr. LaRocco, do you agree with yourself?
Yeah, I'm going to say round. I think this year's been miserable from him. From the stuff that was going on with JT Miller in the room, I'm sure that certainly played a role in, the season he's had. He hasn't looked good at all. And then, the thought process was, okay, well, maybe just this break, getting away from Vancouver, playing with his countrymen, on Sweden, different players, would kind of give him a refresh, reinvigorate him. And he was useless in the tournament too. So it's like that rang alarm bells even further. And I think, sometimes, and I had mentioned this, they identified that JT Miller moving him could have solved the issue. And yes, Miller's gone and that's in the past, but sometimes in a situation where you have an area where two people didn't get along and one leaves, it's best to move the other person too and start fresh completely. And I think for Vancouver's sake, that might be best. And I think for Elias Pettersson, that would be best too, just to start new somewhere else and put that in his past. So I think he does. I'm with Phil, though. I think that might come in the summertime. I don't know if it's going to happen right now. But I do think his time in Vancouver is starting to wind down here.
Mark, before you go, I want to give you the numbers on this. So before the extension last year, 62 games, 29 goals, 75 points, 99-point pace. Since the extension, this was as of January 29th, 2025, 51 points in 76 games, including playoffs last year, 55-point pace. Since the JT Miller trade, he has 2 points in 5 games, and he is even, plus minus even, with that first game being a -2, and then he's had 2 games in where he was a +1.
I have never seen somebody go this bad since getting paid. A lot of people have had their criticisms about Alexei Lafreniere. Alexei Lafreniere looks like he's Connor McDavid compared to what Pettersson's been doing. Yeah, as David was saying right here, Canucks tried to make him comfortable by surrounding him with other, never mind Pettersson's, how about Elias Pettersson's? But they're like, oh, here, Elias, there's another one of you. But I think this is both. I hate to savor Vancouver because it looked like he was going to be truly something special for them. But yeah, it's got to be around. There's no other choice. They got to move on from him. They got to figure out where the direction of their franchise is going. And it's so weird because he just signed this extension. It's just starting, and now. Yeah. Yeah, you know what?
Where did this even come from?
Well, Albert Hainsworth got paid, I believe, by the Redskins and just was.
Oh, I see what he's saying now. Okay.
Yeah.
I honestly thought he was talking about the stomping incident that he got fined for. I was about to say, like, what?
Well, there's lots of those guys in sports that they sign a contract and then they're completely different players after them. One guy I can think of is Oliver Perez for the New York Mets. Great trade that they made for him, but then once he signed that contract, he was abysmal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then oddly enough, he carved out a career as a reliever. But another guy that's on the trade market, guys, is Brayden Schenn. 11 goals and 21 assists so far this season. He's making $6.5 million through the 27-28 season. And Mr. LaRocco, I'm going to ask you, the Blues will trade Brayden Schenn at the trade deadline.
I know his name's out there. I believe Pagnotta also addressed this when talking about the Blues specifically and what other players they could possibly move. I'm going to go shot. I think it's another move that could be made in the summer as maybe the Blues shift towards a retool. And I think teams are going to call on Schenn. I just don't know if it's a move that's going to be made at the deadline, but I think he's a guy that could be like Pettersson, who could be on the move himself in the summertime. What was interesting was that, and I think we touched on this last show we had, Jeremy Rutherford, that covers the Blues for The Athletic, he had said that kind of opened a lot of eyes when he said that he believes that there's a 50 to 60% chance the Blues would trade Jordan Kyrou before his no trade kicked in on July 1st. And that would be an interesting move because he's a player that a lot of teams like to get their hands on. So I just think it goes to show the mindset of St. Louis right now and where they are. I certainly think they're going to be listening on a bunch of players. But I don't know if Schenn goes at the deadline. So I'll say shot.
Bilk?
I'm going to say round. Dave Pagnotta was actually talking about this last night on the segment that I was watching with him and Kate Patterson. And they're taking a lot of calls on Schenn. There's a lot of interest in him. And I can understand why. He's the type of guy that plays the type of game that teams want come playoff time. He may not be the biggest scorer. He may not be the sexiest player in terms of offensive stats or anything like that. He's got 32 and 56 right now. So that's not bad. He'll probably finish with maybe about 50. He had 65 2 years ago, which was actually his second best season. He's still somewhat young. Like, he's not completely in like the twilight of his career yet at 33. But and he's got playoff experience. He's won a cup. You know, that's what teams want come playoff time. Mm-hmm. Depending on the return, I think there are a lot of teams that are going to want him. So I definitely think that this is somebody that's going to get dealt by the time the deadline comes. He has the only caveat is he's making 6.5. and he's got 3 more years left with a 15-team no-trade list. So he is movable, but it's still a big contract to take on for some teams. So this might have to be a little more of a hockey deal, and maybe it's a summer deal at that point. But I do think that there's going to be a ton of interest in him. I think the breaking point and what might make things fall through is there are probably going to be a lot of teams that will ask about salary retention on him.
Yep.
And that's what's going to cause a deal to not happen, if you ask me.
And I think that's where the Blues would probably balk. They'd be like, we're better off just keeping the player than trying to pay for him to get out of there. I, for one, seeing that $6.5 million price tag up until the 27-28 season, that would make me have some pause if I'm a GM. So I'm going to go with shot on it. I don't think he gets moved right now. I think he's I think you're looking at maybe the offseason, as Anthony said, because that's when the bigger moves get made, when you see guys with a lot of term or big AAV, they get moved. But I just, unless there's a broker team that gets involved, and I can't imagine a team wants to use up a retention slot for that many years for a player that's not even going to be on their roster or something else they're going to acquire. So that would be something to just keep an eye on. And we'll find out in about 2 weeks when we do our trade deadline special. All right, guys, thanks for watching Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk. We gauge our confidence on NHL topics based on our choice of drink. Let's do some blind rankings. I'm excited to do these 2 blind rankings that I have ready to go. And unlike other blind rankings, there isn't really some trickery in this. And then we'll go through the Pick Ems quick. So let's go with this one first. Mr. LaRocco, I'm going to give you the best moments in Team USA history. Okay. And because I know it's a blind ranking, let's get the easiest one out of the way. Miracle on Ice.
1.
Salt Lake City silver medal.
3.
The women's Nagano gold medal.
2.
Gold medal in Squaw Valley.
4.
John Carlson's golden goal in the World Juniors in 2010.
5.
All right. Well, those were Team USA's best moments. I probably should have clicked on that one. Bilk, are you ready for the best international moments?
Sure. And by the way, I would have went the same way on the rankings. I was waiting for 96 World Cup of Hockey gold medal to be.
That was the one that was a little bit of trickery, but I'll tell you what, that 98 women's gold medal in Nagano, that was incredible. And that's
2004 World Junior gold might have actually been a better pick, if you ask me.
And then you also had the women's shootout in 2018. That was another good one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Phil, let's go with some of these. Let's go to 1994. I believe that was Lillehammer and Peter Forsberg's shootout winner.
Oh. Two.
Dominic Hasek shutting down Canada en route to the gold medal in 98.
4.
We talked about this one last week. Belarus upset Sweden in Salt Lake.
5.
Henrik Lundqvist leading Sweden to the gold medal in 06.
3.
And you have number 1 still available, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Gretzky to Mario for the Canada Cup winner.
Yeah, that's massive. That's yeah, and it actually worked out pretty well. I can't believe I did that.
Could have gone.
Yeah, that's definitely.
But you know what? I had to go with that one.
Yeah, when you brought that one up, when you brought Lillehammer up, because that's an iconic moment.
Yeah, I would have thought that would have been 1, but yeah, that was Worked out good though for you.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that was the one where I really had a lot of trouble. I was like, wait, there might be something that he's going to throw in there that's a little higher than this. So, I mean, because you got to remember that move, that exact attempt is on a stamp in Sweden.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a stamp. So that shows you how highly they hold that moment there.
It also tells you, and Anthony, I know you got one for me in 1 second, but it also tells you Corey Hirsch is immortalized forever as well. A lot of people forget, though, that Canada had one more shooter after that, and I believe it was Paul Kariya. So,
you know what? I would have to go back.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I believe it was Paul Kariya, the one that shot last. All right, Anthony, hit me. What do you got for the blind man?
So I'm doing best USA-born players, regardless of the positions. And there's obviously with the big game tomorrow, I'm not playing any Mickey Mouse games, so none of this top 5 like you do. It's a full top 10 USA-born players. You ready?
Wait, hold on 1 second. Top 10 US-born players?
Yeah, full time.
Okay, I'm going to do this on my own, Ron.
All right.
Okay.
Doug Weight.
10.
Kyle Oposo.
9.
Peter Taglianetti.
Oh, come on. 11. No, I have to say.
This is insane, Anthony.
8.
8. I got to go with 8. I got to put him as low as possible.
Jamie Langenbrunner.
See, now you got me trying to rank him higher.
Yeah, because this is you would say 7, and then Anthony's going to pull off somebody like Jeff Toms or something,
right?
Like that
or David Tanabe.
David Tanabe.
Why don't I go? I'll go with Jamie Langenbrunner at 4.
At 4, okay, all right. Vincent Trocheck.
Now you got to go 3.
Oh, Jamie Langenbrunner had a better career than Vincent Trocheck so far. So I got to go Trocheck at 5.
Trocheck at 5.
Yeah.
Scott Young.
Begrudgingly, I'm going to say 6.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go with it because you know what? He had that 40-goal, 70-point season in 2001 for St. Louis, and he had some other really good years, but
2002 Olympian, by the way.
Yeah, and then two-time Cup winner.
Yeah, he was. Bob Beers.
7.
All right. Crack myself up. Sean Bates.
Is 8 available?
No, he has tag.
No, I got 2 and 1. That's all that's available.
Oh my god!
What are you doing?
That's gotta go with 2 then.
Wait, I gotta go with 3. I think.
Well, 3. You still have 3.
2 and 1.
Yeah.
Oh
so you
my
go 3.
god!
3.
3.
3.
Okay. Marty McGuinness.
Oh, at least he's an Olympian too. Who am I stuck with? Number 1.
Mike Motto.
Mike Motto, who is the only
winner.
trophy winner to play for the New York Rangers, New York Islanders, and New Jersey Devils.
You regret putting Doug Weight at 10 now, don't you?
Oh God, now I really regret Doug Weight at 10. You said no Mickey Mouse games. I didn't realize we're doing a Mickey Mouse game.
Yeah, Anthony was a liar there. Complete liar, and he throws out Wade first.
He throws out Doug Weight first. I'm like, Doug Wade's first. Come on. Oh yeah. All right, let's do some pick'ems. And Phil, I'll announce the pick'ems so that way I can let you sit back and chill. So here we go on our pick'ems. The theme is going to be for tomorrow night, guys. And let's start with this one. Phil, name the Maple Leaf that's going to step up tomorrow, Auston Matthews or Mitch Marner?
Matthews.
Anthony?
Matthews.
I'm going Matthews. I think that's the best way to go. More critical defenseman to their team, Cale Makar or Jacob Slavin? Anthony.
Slavin.
Slavin. Definitely Slavin.
I think the conventional thinking is the same Makar. It's definitely Slavin. Has to be Slavin. He has been everything that
he has a bad game. The U.S. is screwed.
Yeah. These are my two guys that I use for the under the radar guys, but more important, bottom six forward. Brayden Point or Dylan Larkin, Mr. Fikowski.
Is Brayden Point even really in their bottom six right now?
I thought he was.
Maybe he's on their third. I mean, I would have to take a look.
All right. Well, if not, more important forward.
More important. It's got to be Point.
Yeah, I'm going to go Point too.
I love the way Dylan Larkin's playing. I'm going to take Dylan Larkin. I think Dylan Larkin is just really going well. Anthony, which team will score a power play goal tomorrow? Or the first one, I should say. Canada or the USA?
Canada.
Phil?
This is a tough one because I kind of go on. The conventional thinking is to lean towards Canada because of their power play and all those guys on that unit. Yeah, I can't. I can't go with the U.S. because U.S. has kind of struggled on the power play outside of the Finland game. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with Canada.
Yeah, I got to go Canada too. I think Canada is going to be. I mean, that power play that they didn't score on. Yeah, no penalties in the game. Let them play, maybe. But you know what? There was a penalty 9 seconds in that led to a Canadian power play. Bill, going to you on the. I think this is the toughest question. Will the game be tied in the final minute?
Ooh.
Now, reflecting on this, either the game is tied going into the final minute, or one of the teams pulls the goalie, a la Zach Parise in 2010, and ties the game, or the U.S. in 1996.
I'm gonna say no.
No, Anthony.
Well, being that I had my prediction of Canada winning 4-3 in overtime, I gotta stick with that theme and say yes.
All right. You know what? And being that I got the U.S. winning on an empty net goal, I got to go with no. This is. I think this might be the toughest game to try to figure out, even going all the way back 14 years now or 15 years. This is a tough one to figure out. But yeah, I got to go with that. It's the game will not be tied in the final minute. All right. So that was our pick 'em, guys. And we can do a very quick pyramid. Dinner is about to be served, guys. And
yeah, I'm gonna get going actually because I gotta go.
Okay.
So
how fast can you go for a pyramid, Anthony?
I can do one.
All right, everybody. I will see you all later. Take care.
Later, Phil.
Thank you, Phil. Of course, there's our John Filkowski.
Wait, is this question?
Oh yeah, hey.
I actually do. If you guys want to piggyback me and maybe
let me get the banner up. Anthony's bets.
Hopefully, win a lot of money. I'll tell you in 1 second. All right. So what I got is it's a parlay, 6 legs for shots on goal. It is $45 wager to win $6,516. So payout's pretty good for $45. There it is. JT Miller to record 1+ shot on goal. Matt Boldy to record 2+ shots on goal. Brady Tkachuk to record 3+ shots on goal. Jake Gensel to record 3+ shots on goal. Connor McDavid to record 3 shots on goal. Nathan McKinnon to record 4 shots on goal. And Matthew Tkachuk to record 4+ shots on goal. Now, I did some legwork on this, and it's all very possible. So, Brady Tkachuk, well, first Gensel. In the first game, Gensel recorded 4 shots. In the second game, he recorded 5 shots. And then last game, he only had 1. So for him to get 3 is very doable, as he did it in games 1 and 2. Nathan McKinnon, in the first game, he had 6 shots on goal. In the third game, he had 3 shots on goal. In the second game, he only had 1. So again, that 4 is very much in the realm of possibility. And the Tkachuks are almost a lock. So Brady had 5 shots the first game. He had 3 shots the second game. And he had 3 shots in the last game. And he only played a minute 55. So for him to get 3 is pretty much a safe bet. And then McDavid, again, McDavid has had a couple of games he had 3, and then one of the games he had 1. And then obviously JT Miller to get 1. I mean, that's pretty much a lock. And, Boldy to get 2 is a pretty safe bet too. So we'll see. And for $45 to win $6,500, I'll certainly take it. So we'll see what happens. But that is my bet.
They said, if I recall correctly, Brady Tkachuk was not practicing because of precautionary reasons. But that's it for that. And we do have a bit that we're going to be putting on Instagram tomorrow morning about him. So there you go.
Decent amount. I went to Alaska 2 years ago on a cruise, and I basically funded that by winnings from my bets on Caesars Sportsbook. So,
all right,
I've won a fair amount. But Mark, if you still want to do the quick pyramid.
Yeah, we're gonna do this quick, and we're just gonna fly right through this. So here we go. We got it right here. And
all right, so first, I'll tell you, first glance, just looking at this, I think they're leading us to Paul Kariya as the last answer for the Avalanche. All right, Ducks player, Travis Green.
Travis Green, there we go.
Yeah.
Travis Green, he's the first one that's up there.
So Ducks player
for any team and an Anaheim Duck.
How about Steve Thomas?
Steve Thomas, you like it? Actually, do you want to hold him out? No, I was gonna say for the 50th.
Well, he didn't play NCAA, and he didn't play for the Blues. So you either have to use him.
But there's still a 50 assist season right here.
50
Although you could use Adam Oates for that. But he did play for the Blues.
A Blues player, a Duck, and 50 assists. Oh no, Blues is not in the equation yet. Sorry,
Blues isn't in the equation yet.
A Duck, a 30-goal season, and a 50 assist season. Wait, no, I was gonna say Lubomir Rostovsky never had 30 goals. He had 50 assists.
The good news is you can use Adam Oates right here.
What about NCAA though?
No, that's for the next one.
I know, but wouldn't you use Oates? Wouldn't you save Oates for NCAA?
No, Oates never played in the NCAA, unfortunately.
He didn't?
Yep. AHL, ECAC, and the Ontario Juniors.
Hold on. Before you use Oates.
Okay.
Duck, Blue. Doug Weight?
You might need him for NCAA.
You're right.
So Doug Weight.
What about Craig Janney? Did he ever have a 30
Doug
goals?
Weight did not play in the NCAA, by the way.
Who?
Doug Weight didn't play in the NCAA.
Doug Weight didn't?
No. Oh, wait. Lake Superior State. Yeah, CCHA. So my bad on that.
Oh, Todd Bertuzzi.
Todd Bertuzzi. That's got to be a low one. So let's go with Todd Bertuzzi. Uniqueness score still of 0. Okay, so the NCAA one. It's got to be somebody that's not Doug Weight.
Probably not many. Paul Kariya. You have to save.
Let me go back to Adam Oates.
I'm trying to think of Ducks players. Ducks players. Steve Thomas. You had Kariya. Andy McDonald. Andy McDonald.
Okay, but does he have a 30-goal season? That's the thing we forgot about this.
Check.
Okay. Well, Andy McDonald definitely wouldn't.
No, he might have.
Andy
McDonald might have had a 30-goal season.
Okay, but Anthony, yes, I said EC for Doug Weight, not Doug Weight, Adam Oates. ECAC, that's the RPI Engineers. That's Rhode Island, isn't it? Or is it that?
Yeah,
is that
ECAC is collegiate hockey.
It is collegiate hockey? Okay.
Yeah, Andy McDonald, 34 goals for Anaheim in 05-06.
You're kidding me. And he's got a 50 assist season too?
In that same year.
Wow.
And he had 51 assists for the Ducks when they won the Cup in 07.
I did not believe Andy McDonald was going to be even close to that. Andy McDonald right here?
Yeah. Andy McDonald was a good player.
Yeah, still. Okay, this one's Doug Weight.
Yeah, because you can't use Paul Kariya and we used Andy McDonald. So, hold on. Before you
don't worry.
Doug Weight. Doug Weight? Did Doug Weight?
Should have had a 30-goal season with Edmonton. I mean, it could be Adam Oates too.
Doug Weight never had 30 goals.
No.
Just looked.
Really?
Nope. 25, 26.
Okay, so it's only Adam Oates. Wow, that's a shocker. So Adam Oates. There's the 82, and here's Paul Kariya.
Yeah.
To finish it off. Let's see what we had on these. Let's go look at those stats. Paul Kariya, he's the only answer on the top.
Yep.
Oates, Andy McDonald, and Paul Kariya. So if we were able to flip Andy McDonald over, but Ryan Kessler would have been an option. Danny Heatley as well. But Andy McDonald, the best result towards the bottom. And then, of course, Getzlaff. He was the number one right there. There's we went with Steve Thomas as one of the lower ones. Yeah. So these were all good ones. All right. Anthony, hell of a show today.
Yep.
And we got to look forward to
tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night's going to be a hell of a game. Going to go out and have dinner with my wife, watch probably the end of the game at our apartment. And it's going to be it's just staying like that. It's going to be a hell of a game. I can't wait to see what it's going to be like. It's going to be a playoff atmosphere. I can't wait to see the reception it's going to get. One thing I didn't cover earlier on is that the U.S.-Canada game blew away the
the rating
All-Star game and slam dunk competition. Then again, who wants to watch a YouTuber win? I mean,
Mark.
All right, and thank you very much. And Brady, I realized it afterwards. ECAC. Yeah. Unfortunately, I did it after I opened up my mouth. I thought it was the East Coast Hockey League. All right, and enjoy. I'll have to have dinner.
I'll see you.
Take it easy.